one of my first videos I did was called Life of an Entrepreneur, okay? If you look at the life of an entrepreneur, guess what car's in it? A red Ferrari, okay? So when I posted that video, everybody said, oh, he probably rented this Ferrari. I'm like, damn, people think I rented this Ferrari. Okay, I mean,
it was yours, you owned it?
I had it for 3 years. I had that Ferrari for 3 years. I sold the Ferrari a year ago. Okay, I had it for I drove it every day. I sold it with 25,000 miles.
You sold it last year?
I sold it last year, yeah. Wow. So for me, when I had my Aventador, I drove it every day. I put 10,000 miles on it. I just sold my Aventador. I put 20,000 miles on it. I drive my exotics. I don't buy it and put it, except the next one I'm buying. That one's not going to be driven a lot. But when that comes, that comes. What's the point? Moral of the story. If you go through my pictures on Instagram, I don't know how many pictures you're going to see with cars. Maybe 5, maybe 6. Does it work? 100%. I will tell you, it 100% works. If you own a Ferrari and you pull up to a place that you want to network, and you pull up in a red Ferrari, you're going to get different kind of attention than if you pull up in an S500. It's just automatic. Everyone's going to look at it. So yes, it's, chauvinistic, whatever you want to call it. But when Trump goes to speak in North Carolina and there's a plane in the back, not a Air Force One, but it says Trump.
Pretty sick.
It's kind of like, sick. Call this man broke. It's $10,000 an hour to fly that thing. So you think he's broke? If he flies from Florida to New York and back, that's a $60,000 flight just on gas. You think he's broke paying $60,000? The average person spends $400 to go from Florida to New York back and forth. This guy's spending $60,000 to go on a plane like that. You got to know that people sit there and say, this freaking guy owns a plane and it's got his name on it. So there is an element that it works only. This is the part I was going to with this.
He's a great marketer.
He's a great marketer. But the reason why it works for him is because of what we talked about with Sting and Ray Charles. He's been doing this for decades, same as Kardashian. So you can put a picture with a Ferrari, but if that picture doesn't show up 5 years from now, you may have been a fraud. You can put a picture of your house, but if you rented that house, everybody wants to know what happened to that house 15 years later, and you're forgotten about it. And I will tell you, there is nothing worse than being forgotten about. It doesn't matter if you're a grandfather. If your grandkids and your kids don't want to see you anymore, it's one of the most painful things you'll ever have. If you don't get an invitation to a wedding and you're a grandfather, I mean, that's like a night. No pain's going to be more difficult than that, right? So
have you experienced that?
Have I experienced on a smaller scale? I experienced on a smaller scale, more on the nightclub scene, because I was the guy that was, you wanted to go to the parties with me and, the girls and all that other stuff. And then one moment I decide to, get my act together and stop being the guy that I was. And I wanted to change some of my habits. I was partying way too much. I was going to Vegas every other weekend. I'm at nightclubs 6 nights a week. I'm at nightclubs and, women here, women there. And one day I just said, I want to drop this habit because I'm broke. My dad had a heart attack. I went to the hospital and I saw this man at UCLA Medical Center on his deathbed, lost, nearly 40 pounds. And I said to myself, we got to make some changes here, man. This is not going to happen. I went in my car, sat in my Ford Focus. I was the guy that had the nice SUV. I'd take everybody to the club. So I'm on my Ford Focus, crying like a little baby at 23 years old. I said, you're partying every night. Your dad's about to die. He works at a 99-cent store. And this man sacrificed everything to bring you to America, and you want to go party every night? What are you doing? Get your act together. Next day I came, the look on my face changed. I went to work, but I was forgotten about at the nightclubs. I was forgotten about. I was no longer the cool guy. I was the square guy. All you want to do is read business books. What a freaking boring guy you are.
But that's kind of a cool thing.
But it's not, though, at the beginning when you're going through it. At the beginning when you're going through it, it's not, because there's short-term pain. And most people, believe it or not, if that was so easy, a lot of people would do it. But most people eventually hate the comment people make when they say, you know what, Bobby? Man, I miss the old you. You've changed. Most people cannot handle that compliment. They don't know it's a compliment. They take it as a diss. In that moment, you don't know what's going on because you haven't still proven that you're going to be successful. When I was going through the phase, I was in debt $49,000. So people are like, what are you doing? Come on down. We're missing you, man. Everybody's asking about you. And it's like, oh, it's Pat, So you kind of are forgotten about it. And when that happens, you kind of start thinking about what really matters in your life. And then eventually you get to the mature stage where you say, well, really, that stuff didn't matter to me anyways. But when you're in the middle of it, you don't know, because you don't know if the price is worth it. You don't know if the price is worth it. So Danny, when you're in the middle and you're going through paying the price and you have not yet proven to yourself, okay? Meaning nobody yet knows, you don't know if this 80 hours a week you're putting into working is going to work.
Right.
How many guys, pay the price of playing football 24/7 and then make it this close to the NFL and they don't make it. They're working out of Starbucks. That's so you're right there. You can go smoke weed with that girl and party and do a couple lines because you don't know for a fact if you're going to get into the NFL. And you're tempted. She's the one you always wanted to get together with. Now she wants to get together with you and bring her girl with you. That's some experience. Do you want to really give that up? And at one moment, you're in that tipping point. You may not make it in the NFL. So you're kind of like, well, I'm not going to make it anyways. Why am I going to do it? I'm not going to build a real business anyways. How do I know I'm going to do it? So it's in those moments where we screw up. So yes, there is nothing more painful than being forgotten about. When it happens, many of these guys that were cool at one point with their Ferrari pictures, they will be forgotten about if there's no substance.
How do you feel about making content for your audience versus making content about what speaks to you personally or what you're personally interested in?
Yeah, so I do bodybuilding because I wanted to be Mr. Olympia before. So it's very easy to me bodybuilding because anything from 1990 on till mid 2000, I know all the bodybuilders, and I'm very good friends with Phil Heath. We're pretty much talking every single week. Good friend of mine. I advise him on a couple things that he does. So bodybuilding interview for me is very easy. Mob interview is very easy for me. Why? I watched all the stories. I read all the books. I know all the things that I came up reading about the things that happen with mob. So whatever you do that there's interest in you, when you do that interview, the audience is going to feel it, whatever you do.
You got to chase the views, or do you chase just what you're interested in, even if it doesn't bring in views? Do you focus more on business, the business side of it, the numbers, all that stuff? Or do you just, whatever, follow your passion or your dream or whatever it is?
If you're doing it just to have fun, you're doing it. If you're doing it because it's a business model and you're selling stuff through it, then that's a different thing. If you're doing it because it's so different for everybody on YouTube. I mean, you got these 6-year-old kids, 7-year-old kids that are unpacking toys, making 22 million a year. Kid's name is Ryan. He's got this channel that all he does is open up Lego toys or different toys. He's a $22 million a year earner, 7-year-old kid. I mean, who's doing it? Him or his parents? His parents. There are so many ways to leverage technology today, but it's all on what you're solving for. And, many times while you're doing what you're doing, you may not even know it for the first 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
Right.
5 years later, you may say, this is going to turn into a bit concrete. All of a sudden could have 10 million subscribers. Now you're getting sponsors are coming to you and saying, hey, what can we do together? You have no idea what it's going to go from there. Now you need advisors. Now you got attorneys. Now you got agents, managers. Now you got people come up to you saying, hey, we want to use you in different ways. What do you think about this? Now you got opportunities coming your way. Then you really will be making decisions in a different way.
Next thing you know, I'm on Patrick Bet David's level.
Well, listen, everybody has a different, the biggest challenge is, when you look at the game, you said something very interesting here. Do you solve for views or do you solve for what you want to do, what your passion is, right? I mean, originally, when you're coming out, it's unfortunately when you're smaller, a lot of times people compare, right? Oh my God, look at that guy. I mean, like when we were first getting started, it's like, oh, we only have 100 subscribers. Oh my gosh, we suck. Nobody likes our content. This must not be good. Then you're like, well, we got one video, got 300 views. This is amazing, And then who are these 300 people that are watching this video? Then you get 1,000 views, 2,000 views. And then the moment you forget what the audience thinks about the content you're creating, that's when you start winning. The moment you forget that I really don't care if you like it or not, I'm enjoying it.
Absolutely.
I really don't care if you, like when I went into bodybuilding interviews, I got to tell you, I got a lot of people that hated the fact that I was doing bodybuilding interviews. They said, why are you doing bodybuilding interviews? This is an entrepreneur website. I said, I love bodybuilding.
They try to keep you in your box.
You got it. So you yourself, you have momentum right now. You're about to get big momentum. All of a sudden you get to 5, 10 million subs. You're one of these guys that are bigger channels, People are going to try to keep you in a box. You got to play to what you want to play,
Mm.
because that's how you won people over in the first place.